Maud, Part 1. I hate the dreadful hollow behind the little wood. Its lips in the field above are dabbled with blood-red heath. The red-ribbed ledges drip with a silent horror of blood. An echo there, whatever is asked her, answers death. For there in the ghastly pit, long since a body was found, his who had given me life, O Father, O God, was it well, mangled and flattened and crushed and dinted into the ground. There yet lies the rock that fell with him when he fell. Now, obviously, if you ask your parents, you can get answers that you may not figure out while you're praying. Did he fling himself down? Who knows? For a vast speculation had failed, and ever he muttered and maddened, and ever wend with despair, and out he walked when the wind like broken worldling wailed, and the flying gold of the ruined woodlands drove through the air. I remember the time, for the roots of my hair were stirred by a shuffled step, by a dead weight trailed, by a whispered fright, and my pulses closed their gates with a shock on my heart as I heard a shrill-edged shriek of a mother divided the shuddering night. Villainy somewhere whose one says we are villains all, not he, his honest fame should at least by me be maintained, but that old man now, lord of the broad estate and the hall, dropped off, gorged from a scheme that had left us flaccid and drained. Why do they prate of the blessings of peace? We have made them a curse, pickpockets each, hand lusting for all that is not its own, and lust of gain in the spirit of Cain. Is it better or worse than the heart of the citizen hissing in war on his own hearthstone? But these are the days of advance, the works of the men of the mind, when who but a fool would have faith in a tradesman's ware or his word? Is it peace or war? Civil war, as I think, and that of a kind, the viler as underhand, not openly bearing the sword. Sooner or later, I too may passively take the print of the golden age. Why not? I have neither hope nor trust, may make my heart as a millstone, set my face as a flint, cheat and be cheated and die, who knows, with her ashes and dust. Peace, sitting under her olive, and slurring the days gone by, when the poor are hovelled and hustled together, each sex like swine, when only the ledger lives, and when only not all men lie. Peace in her vineyard, yes, but a company forges the wine, and the vitriol madness flushes up in the ruffian's head, till the filthy by-lane rings to the yell of the trampled wife, and chalk and alum and plaster are sold to the poor for bread, and the spirit of murder works in the very means of life. And sleep must lie down armed, for the villainous centre bits grind on the wakeful ear in the hush of the moonless nights, while another is cheating the sick of a few last gasps as he sits to pestle a poison behind his crimson lights, when a Mammonite mother kills her babe for a burial fee, and Timur Mammon grins on a pile of children's bones. Is it peace or war? Better war. Loud war, by land and by sea. War with 1,000 battles, and shaking 100 thrones. For I trust, if an enemy's fleet came yonder round by the hill, and the threshing battle bolt sang from the 3-decker out of the foam, that smooth-faced, snub-nosed rogue would leap from his counter and till, and strike if he could, were it but with his cheating yard wand home. What? Am I raging alone, as my father raged in his mood? Must I too creep to the hollow and dash myself down and die, rather than hold by the law that I made, nevermore to brood on a horror-shattered limbs and a wretched swindler's lie? Would there be sorrow for me? There was love and the passionate shriek, love for the silent thing that had made false hastes to the grave, wrapped in a cloak as I saw him, and though he would arise and speak and rave at the lie and the liar, ah God, as he used to rave. I am sick of the hall and the hill, I am sick of the moor and the main. Why should I stay? Can a sweeter chance ever come to me here? Oh, having the nerves of motion as well as the nerves of pain, were it not wise if I fled from the place and the pit and the fear? Workmen up at the hall, they are coming back from abroad. The dark old place will be gilt by the touch of a millionaire. I have heard, I know not whence, of the singular beauty of Maud. I played with the girl when a child. She promised then to be fair. Maud, with her venturous climbings and tumbles and childish escapes. Maud, the delight of the village, the ringing joy of the hall. Maud, with her sweet pursed mouth when my father dangled the grapes. Maud, the beloved of my mother, the moon-faced darling of all. What is she now? My dreams are bad. She may bring me a curse. No, there is fatter game on the moor. She will let me alone. Thanks, for the fiend best knows whether woman or man be the worse. I will bury myself in myself, and the devil may pipe to his own. Long have I sighed for a calm. God grant I may find it at last. It will never be broken by Maud. She is neither savour nor salt, but a cold and clear-cut face, as I found when her carriage passed. Perfectly beautiful, let it be granted her. Where is the fault? All that I saw, for our eyes were downcast, not to be seen. Faultily faultless, icily regular, splendidly null, dead perfection no more, nothing more. If it had not been for a chance of travel, a paleness, an hour's defect of the rose, or an underlip, you may call it a little too ripe, too full, or the least delicate aquiline curve in a sensitive nose, from which I escaped, heart-free, with the least touch of spleen. Cold and clear face, why come you so cruelly meek, breaking a slumber in which all spleenful folly was drowned, pale with the golden beam of an eyelash dead on the cheek, passionless, pale, cold face, star-sweet on a gloom profound, woman-like, taking revenge too deep for transient wrong, done but in thought to your beauty, and ever as pale as before, growing and fading, growing upon me without a sound, luminous, gem-like, ghost-like, death-like, half the night long, growing and fading and growing, till I could bear it no more, but arose and all by myself in my own dark garden ground, listening now to the tide in its broad-flung ship-wrecking roar, now to the scream of the maddened beach dragged down by the wave, walked in a wintry wind by ghastly glimmer, and found the shining daffodil dead, and Orion low in his grave. Part 4. A million emeralds break from the ruby-budded lime in the little grove where I sit. Ah, wherefore cannot I be like things of the season gay, like the bountiful season bland, when the far-off sail is blown by the breeze of a softer clime, half lost in the liquid azure bloom of a crescent of sea, the silent sapphire-spangled marriage ring of the land. Below me there is the village, and looks how quiet and small, yet bubbles o'er like a city with gossip, scandal, and spite. And Jack, on his alehouse bench, has as many lies as a czar. And here, on the landward side, by a red rock, glimmers the hall, and up the high hall garden I see her pass like a light. But sorrow seize me, if ever that light be my leading star, when I have bowed to her father, the wrinkled head of the race. I met her today with her brother, but not to her brother I bowed. I bowed to his lady sister as she rode by on the moor, but the fire of a foolish pride flashed over her beautiful face. O child, you wrong your beauty, believe it, in being so proud. Your father has wealth well gotten, and I am nameless and poor. I keep but a man and a maid, ever ready to slander and steal. I know it, and smile a hard-set smile, like a Stoic, or like a wiser Epicurean, and let the world have its way, for nature is one with rapine, a harm no preacher can heal. The mayfly is torn by the swallow speared by the shrike, and the whole little wood where I sit is a world of plunder and prey. Well, it's different animals that act only on instinct and have no choice. The human being has choice, don't we? We are puppets, man in his pride, and beauty fair in her flower. Do we move ourselves, or are we moved by an unseen hand at a game that pushes us off from the board, and others ever succeed? Ah, yet we cannot be kind to each other here for an hour. We whisper and hint and chuckle and grin at a brother's shame. However, we brave it out. We men are a little breed. A monstrous eft was of old the lord and master of earth. For him did his high sun flame, and his river billowing ran. And he felt himself and his force to be nature's crowning race, as 9 months go to the shaping an infant ripe for his birth, so many a million of ages have gone to the making of man. He now is first, but is he the last? Is he not too base? Sometimes people think that, if you're going to throw in the word race, some people think that, they're the superior race, but in some ways, the race doesn't quite pan out, does it? But again, you do what you do with what you can, and I think with so many things, it's just a matter of nurture. The man of science himself is fonder of glory and vain, an eye well practiced in nature, a spirit bounded and poor. The passionate heart of the poet is whirled in folly and vice. I would not marvel at either, but keep a temperate brain, for not to desire or admire, if a man could learn it, or more than to walk all day like the Sultan of old in a garden of spice. For the drift of the maker is dark, and Isis hid by the veil. Who knows the ways of the world, how God will bring them about? Our planet is one, the suns are many, the world is wide. Shall I weep if a Poland fall? Shall I shriek if a Hungary fail? Or an infant civilization be ruled with rod and with knout? I have not made the world, and he that made it will guide. Be mine a philosopher's life in the quiet woodland ways, where if I cannot be gay, the opposite of dull, let a passionless peace be my lot, far off from the clamor of liars, belied in the hubbub of lies, from the long-necked geese of the world that are ever hissing dispraise, because their natures are little, and whether he heed it or not, where each man walks with his head in a cloud of poisonous flies. And most of all would I flee from the cruel madness of love, the honey of poison flowers, and all the measureless ill. Ah, Maud, you milk-white fawn, you are all unmeet for a wife. Your mother is mute in her grave, as her image in marble above. Your father is ever in London. You wander about at your will. You have but fed on the roses, and lain in the lilies of life. Part 5. A voice by the cedar tree, in the meadow, under the hall. She is singing an air that is known to me, a passionate ballad, gallant and gay, a martial song like a trumpet's call, singing alone in the morning of life, in the happy morning of life, out of May, singing of men that in battle array, ready in heart and ready in hand, march with banner and bugle and fife to the death for their native land. Maud with her exquisite face and wild voice, pealing up to the sunny sky, and feet like sunny gems on an English green. Maud in the light of her youth and her grace, singing of death and of honor that cannot die, till I well could weep for a time so sordid and mean, and myself so languid and base. Silence, beautiful voice, be still, for you only trouble the mind with a joy in which I cannot rejoice, a glory I shall not find. Still, I will hear you no more, for your sweetness hardly leaves me a choice, but to move the meadow and fall before her feet on the meadow grass and adore, not her who is neither courtly nor kind, not her, but a voice. Part 6. Morning arises stormy and pale, no sun but a wannish glare, in fold upon fold of hueless cloud, and the budding peaks of the wood are bowed. Caught and cuffed by the gale, I had fancied it would be fair. Whom but Maud should I meet last night when the sunset burned on the blossomed gable ends at the head of the village street? Whom but Maud should I meet? And she touched my hand with a smile so sweet, she made me divine amends for a courtesy not returned, and thus a delicate spark of glowing and growing light, through the lifelong hours of the dark, kept itself warm in the heart of my dreams, ready to burst in a colored flame, till at last, when the morning came, but in a cloud, it faded and seems but an ashen gray delight. What if, with her sunny hair, and smile as sunny as cold, she meant to weave me a snare of some coquettish deceit, Cleopatra-like as of old, to entangle me when we met, to have her lion roll in a silken net, and fawn at a victor's feet? Ah, what shall I be at 50? Should nature keep me alive, if I find the world so bitter when I am but 25? Yet if she were not a cheat, if Maud were all that she seemed, and her smile were all that I dreamed, then the world would not be so bitter, but a smile could make it sweet. What if thou her eye seemed full of a kind intent to me? What if that dainty despot, he, that jewelled mass of millinery, that oiled and curled Assyrian bull, smelling of musk and of insolence, her brother, from whom I keep aloof, who wants the finer politic sense to mask thou, but in his own behoof, with a glassy smile, his brutal scorn. What if he had told her yestermorn how prettily for his own sweet sake a face of tenderness might be feigned, and a moist mirage in desert eyes, that so, when the rotten hustings shake, in another month to his brazen lies, a wretched vote may be gained. For a raven ever croaks at my side, keep watch and ward, keep watch and ward. Are thou what prove their tool? Yea, to myself, from myself I guard, for often a man's own angry pride is cap and bells for a fool. Perhaps the smile and tender tone came out of her pitying womanhood. For am I not here alone? So many a summer since she died, my mother, who was so gentle and good, living alone in an empty house, here half hid in the gleaming wood, where I hear the dead at midday moan, and the shrieking rush of the wainscot mouse, and my own sad name in corners cried, when the shiver of dancing leaves is thrown about its echoing chambers wide, till a morbid hate and horror have grown of a world in which I have hardly mixed, and a morbid eating lichen fixed on a heart half turned to stone. O heart of stone, are you flesh, and caught by that you swore to withstand? For what was it else within me wrought, but I fear the new strong wine of love, that made my tongue so stammer and trip, when I saw the treasured splendor, her hand, come sliding out of her sacred glove, and the sunlight broke from her lip. I have played with her when a child, she remembers it now. We meet, ah, well, 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 I may be beguiled by some coquettish deceit, yet, if she were not a cheat, if Maud were all that she seemed, and her smile had all that I dreamed, then the world were not so bitter, but a smile could make it sweet. Part 7. Did I hear it half in a doze, long since, I know not where? Did I dream it an hour ago, when asleep in this armchair? Men were drinking together, drinking and talking of me. Well, if it prove a girl, the boy, why plenty, so let it be. Is it an echo of something? Read with a boy's delight. Viziers nodding together in some Arabian night. Strange that I heard two men somewhere talking of me. Well, if it prove a girl, my boy will have plenty, so let it be. Part 8. She came to the village church, and sat by a pillar alone. An angel watching an urn wept over her, carved in stone. And once, but once, she lifted her eyes, and suddenly, sweetly, strangely blushed, to find they were met by my own. And suddenly, sweetly, my heart beat stronger and thicker, until I heard no longer the snowy banded dilettante, delicate handed priest in tone, and thought, is it pride? And mused and sighed, no, surely now it could not be pride. Part 10. Part 9. I was walking a mile, more than a mile, from the shore. The sun looked out with a smile betwixt the cloud and the moor, and riding at set of day, over the dark moorland, rapidly riding far away, she waved to me with her hand. There were two at her side. Something flashed in the sun. Down by the hill I saw them ride. In a moment they were gone, like a sudden spark, struck vainly in the night. Then returns the dark, with no more hope of light. Part 10. Sick. Am I sick of a jealous dread? Was not one of the two at her side, this new-made lord whose splendor plucks the slavish hat from the villager's head, whose old grandfather has lately died, gone to a blacker pit, or whom grimy nakedness, dragging its trunks, and laying his trams in a poisoned gloom, wrought till he crept from a gutted mine, masters of half a servile shire, and left his coil all turned into gold, to a grandson first of his noble line, rich in the grace of all women desire, strong in the power that all men adore, and simpler, and set their voices lower, and soften as if to a girl, and hold awe-stricken breaths at a work divine, seeing his gewgaw castle shine, new as his title, built last year, there amid perky larches and pine, and over the sullen purple moor, look at it, prickling a cockney ear. What, has he found my jewel out? For one of the two that rode at her side, bound for the hall, I am sure was he, bound for the hall, and I think for a bride. Blithe would her brother's acceptance be. Maud could be gracious too, no doubt, to a lord, a captain, a padded shape, a bought commission, a waxen face, a rabbit mouth that is ever agape. Bought, what is it he cannot buy? And therefore, splenetic, personal, base, a wounded thing, with a rancorous cry, at war with myself, and a wretched race, sick to the heart of life am I. Last week came one to the country town to preach our poor little army down, and play the game of the despot kings, though the state has done it, and thrice as well. This broad-brimmed hawker of holy things, whose ear is stuffed with his cotton and rings, even in dreams, to the chink of his pence, this huckster put down war. Can he tell whether war be a cause or a consequence? Put down the passions that make earth hell, down with ambition, avarice, pride, jealousy down, cut off from the mind, the bitter springs of anger and fear, down too, down at your own fireside, with the evil tongue and the evil ear, for each is at war with mankind. I wish I could hear again the chivalrous battle song that she warbled alone in her joy. I might persuade myself then she would not do herself this great wrong, to take a wanton, dissolute boy for a man and leader of men. Ah, God, for a man with heart, head, hand, like some of the simple great ones gone, for ever and ever by, one still strong man in a blatant land, whatever they call him, what care I, aristocrat, democrat, plutocrat, one who can rule and dare not lie, an awe for man to rise in me, that the man I am may cease to be. Well, beauty and voice and all that stuff, I mean, can't you find something more useful in a woman? And I guess part 13, scorn to be scorned by one that I scorn. Is that a matter to make me fret? That a calamity hard to be borne? Well, he may live to hate me yet. Fool that I am to be vexed with his pride. I passed him, I was crossing his lands. He stood on the path, a little aside. His face, as I grant, in spite of spite, has a broad blown comeliness, red and white, and 6 feet 2, as I think he stands. But his essence turned the live air sick, and barbarous opulence, jewel thick, sunned itself on his breast and his hands. Who shall call me ungentle, unfair? I long so heartedly, then and there, to give him the grasp of fellowship. But when I passed, he was humming an air, slopped, and then, with a riding whip, leisurely tapping a glossy boot, and curving a contumelious lip, gargonized me from head to foot with a stony British stare. Freemason, or just, something else? Why sits he here in his father's chair? That old man never comes to his place. Shall I believe him ashamed to be seen? For only once in the village street last year I caught a glimpse of his face, a grey old wolf and lean. Scarcely now would I call him a cheat, for then, perhaps, as a child at a seat, she might by a true descent be untrue, and Maud is as true as Maud is sweet, though I fancy her sweetness only due to the sweeter blood by the other side. Her mother has been a thing complete, however she came to be so allied, and fair without, faithful within. Maud to him is nothing akin. Some peculiar mystic grace made her only the child of her mother, and heaped the whole inherited sin on that huge scapegoat of the race. All upon the brother. Peace, angry spirit. And let him be. Has not his sister smiled on me? And I definitely, I could name names. I'm not going to. That's not my point to divulge such things. But certainly, if someone's mother sets a bad example, or doesn't get her life in order by a certain age, this is used as an excuse by the daughter to do at least what the mother has done. It's an excuse, and there are other effects involved. But we need to get past our parents, right? We need to accept and